Tell them they're on mute.
Brad's on mute. We unmuted?
Can you hear us, Kristen?
Yes.
Wave your hand. Everybody looks so
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Go.
Okay.
I think we're up. Okay.
Ready to go?
Yep.
New York Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 102, provides that the New York State Gaming Commission shall consist of 7 members appointed by the governor, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. 4 members confirmed by the New York State Senate are necessary to afford the commission an ability to establish a quorum and undertake action. This present meeting of the commission is now called to order. This meeting is being conducted by video conferencing in 2 locations, New York and Schenectady. Both locations have been appropriately noticed and accommodate public attendance. Ms. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
John Crotty,
Here.
Sylvia Hamer,
Here.
Peter Machete,
Here.
Brian O'Dwyer,
Here.
Marissa Shorenstein,
Here.
Jerry Skurnick.
Here.
Ms. Secretary, please have the record reflect that a quorum of qualified members are present, thus enabling the transaction of business. Please note that Commissioner Machete is in Schenectady. Bilateral visual and oral communications between New York and Schenectady have been established. Mr. Chairman?
Minutes of the commission meeting conducted on March 25, 2024 have been provided to the members in advance. At this time, I'd like to ask the members if there are any edits, corrections, or amendments. Ms. Secretary, please not let the record reflect the minutes have been accepted. I now call upon our Executive Director, Mr. Williams, for his report.
Thank you, sir. I want to talk about 2 items today. One is a new lottery campaign, and the other regards the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga. The Division of the Lottery has embarked on a new advertising campaign that will focus on its underlying purpose, to benefit New York public schools. While commission employees are rightfully proud of the more than $82 billion raised and contributed to New York education since 1967, the purpose of the lottery is sometimes overlooked, given media focuses on prizes. In fact, research indicates that only 24% of New Yorkers are able to accurately identify education as lottery's beneficiary. To address this deficiency, Lottery has initiated an advertising campaign to communicate its education mission. Phase 1 started in March with organic social engagement. This has included a new Aid to Education logo and messaging across all of Lottery's owned media channels, including the Lottery's website landing page, providing details on the amount of money contributed, how the revenue is distributed, and how much each school district by county has benefited. On the Lottery's social media as well, on the site formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, sharing statistics about New York Lottery's contribution to public education. On draw game tickets, with Aid to Education messaging being incorporated in the front of all numbers, Win 4, Mega Millions, Powerball, Pick 10, Take 5, Cash for Life, Lotto, and Quick Draw tickets. And it is on digital in-store signage, which are at all New York Lottery retail locations attached to the ticket sales terminal, updated monthly to share new statistics about New York Lottery's contribution to public education. Phase 2, which started this month, extends the Aid to Education logo and messaging by leveraging paid media already in market, including digital outdoor signage, digital displays, social and sponsorships, along with additional owned channels. This will include Link New York City digital outdoor signage on 110 street-level kiosks across Manhattan, on digital display banners running across a broad network of publishers spanning categories such as news, sports, and entertainment, with summer stage sponsorship across a variety of assets, including digital stage screens, in email newsletters and social media posts, with desktop and mobile banner placement across New York Lottery website, and with Aid to Education logo being incorporated into the back of all new instant game tickets as well as all draw game tickets. Phase 3 is scheduled to start this September with an integrated multimedia mix with a rollout across digital channels and with a broadcast push at the launch of the campaign. This will include television to drive messaging, reach with a presence across highly visible programming in all 10 of the state's designated market areas during back-to-school season, on digital and social media to reach consumers across streaming audio and video, in print placed in highly indexing newspapers across the state at launch and at the start of the holiday season, and with out of home, a mix of aimed to drive awareness. Finally, phase 3 will be supported through year-round sponsorships, which include placements across both sports and music events that connect New York Lottery stadium and arena signage and broadcasts. Since Aid to Education is an evergreen initiative, success will be measured based on observed increases in key metrics long-term, ensuring New Yorkers are better aware of our critical mission and to remind them of the New York Lottery's singular mission of funding public education. With respect to the Belmont Stakes at Belmont, finally today, several months ago, the Commission approved NYRA's request to conduct the Belmont Stakes and 3 additional days of associated events at the Saratoga Racecourse. The 4 days have been labeled the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival and feature 24 stakes races with purses totaling over $10 million. This will be the first occurrence of the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga. The race was named after August Belmont Sr. rather than Belmont Park, and has been previously held at Jerome Park, Morris Park Racecourse, and Aqueduct Racetrack. I note that during one of the 3 years it was contested at Aqueduct, the race was won by the father of the commission, NYRA Stewart. The traditional length of the race has been 1.5 miles, but it has been contested at distances between 1.25 miles and 1 5/8 miles during its over 150 years of running. This year's event will be contested at 1 1/4 miles. In advance of this event, the Commission has undertaken a few actions designed to ease any concerns and issues. Starting in March, Commission licensing staff have been working with NYRA, the New York Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association, and the Backstretch Employee Service Team staffs to facilitate licensing of employees who will be working at Saratoga. In April, the Schenectady-based Commission staff have been holding scheduled hours at the Saratoga Racecourse to take and process fingerprints and to accept and review application materials. With respect to claiming, the oddity of a limited 4-day event at a racetrack remote from the primary place of the meet operation could have resulted in claiming inequities, given Commission Rule 4038.1A provides that claims may only be made by an owner who was nominated as starter in the previous or current race meet in which the claim is made. For the avoidance of doubt and to ensure that there are no unintended consequences, the NYRA Commission Steward declared that the racing conducted as part of the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival to be part of the Belmont at the Big A Summer Meet. Accordingly, licensed owners who do not compete in the 2024 Belmont Stakes Racing Festival will remain eligible to claim horses during the Belmont remainder at the Big A's. Finally, to ensure that the racing surfaces are appropriately groomed, the Commission's Equine Medical Director has been interfacing with NYRA facilities and outside consultants to ensure that the surfaces have been opened in a manner consistent with the protocols established a few years ago to make the surfaces as safe as possible. While there will be no Triple Crown contested this year, I anticipate that the Belmont Stakes will be highly competitive. Between Friday and Saturday, there will be 13 graded stakes, with 9 being Grade 1 events. This makes for the best weekend card in North America outside of the Breeders' Cup, and I hope you can all attend. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Do we have any questions for Mr. Williams? Hearing none. All right, now let's go to our rulemaking. New York State Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law 104.19 authorizes the Commission to promulgate rules and regulations that it deems necessary to carry out its responsibilities. To that regard, the Commission will from time to time promulgate rules and regulations and rule amendments pursuant to the State Administrative Procedure Act. Today we have 3 rules for adoption consideration and 1 rule for proposal consideration. Mr. Williams.
For Commission consideration is the adoption of amendments to the Thoroughbred and Harness Pick 4 wagering rules. These changes, in regard to consolidation pools and carryovers, would mirror the current Thoroughbred Pick 6 rule and the proposed rule for amendments to the Thoroughbred Pick 5 rule. The proposal would allow each racetrack to choose one of 2 options for conducting Pick 4 wagering. Either carry over 100% of the net pool or carry over 75% of the net pool while paying out a consolation of the remaining 25%. Prior written approval of the Commission would be required before a track could change the method of apportioning the Pick 4 pool, and each track operator would be required to ensure that the wagering public is aware of the differences in the way that the Pick 4 pool is apportioned. A notice of proposed rulemaking was published in the February 7th, 2024 State Register, meaning the public comment period expired on April 8th. No public comments were received. The Commission recommends that the staff recommends that the Commission adopt this proposed rulemaking.
Commissioners, any questions on the adoption of the amendments regarding the Pick 4 wager? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt this rule?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. Williams.
For Commission consideration is the adoption of amendments to the Thoroughbred Pick 5 wagering rule that would allow each Thoroughbred racetrack the option of offering a consolation payout for Pick 5 wagers. Consolation, excuse me. The proposal would allow a Thoroughbred racetrack to choose one of 2 options for conducting a Pick 5 wagering. Either carry over 100% of the net pool or carry over 75% of the net pool while paying out as a consolation the remaining 25%. Prior written approval of the Commission would be required before a track could change the method of apportioning its Pick 5 pools, and each track operator would be required to ensure that the wagering public is aware of the differences in the way that a Pick 5 pool is apportioned. A notice of proposed rulemaking was published in the February 7th, 2024 State Register, meaning that the public comment period expired on April 8th. 1 comment was received from NYRA, which expressed support for the proposal. Staff recommends that the Commission adopt this rulemaking.
Commissioners, any questions on the adoption of amendments regarding the Pick 5 wager for Thoroughbred racing? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Mr. Williams.
For Commission consideration is the adoption of a proposed rule to amend thoroughbred claiming regulations. Recall this proposal was developed after meetings with Finger Lakes and NYRA and the Thoroughbred Horsemen's Organizations at each association. The proposal would allow claimants who have raced on a circuit within 120 days, which would increase the number of owners qualified to make claims. It would allow 30 additional days for holders of a certificate of eligibility who have lost a competition by lot for a claimed horse, providing an owner with an opportunity to claim when the owner has not been successful in claiming a horse in the first 30 days of a race meeting. It would reduce from 30 to 20 days the restriction against running a claimed horse again for a claiming price less than 25% greater than the claiming price. It would establish a further 10-day period in which a claimed horse may start for a price equal to the claiming price, and it would extend from 30 days to 60 days the prohibition against running a claimed horse outside of New York State, with an exception for horses claimed at Finger Lakes Racetrack, in which case the horse may run elsewhere after 30 days from the end of the Finger Lakes racing season. A notice of proposed rulemaking was published in the February 7th, 2024 State Register, meaning that the public comment period expired on April 8th. 2 comments were received. one from NYRA, which expressed support for the proposal, the second from a licensed thoroughbred owner, Christopher Mancusi, who also expressed support for the proposal. Staff recommends that the commission adopt this rulemaking.
Commissioners, any questions on the adoption of amendments regarding claiming rules, revision in thoroughbred racing?
I have one. Didn't we extend out the time back in the day for horse safety? Wasn't it longer and then we shortened, like you couldn't run them right back?
I believe there was an element relative to that back in 2014
Yeah,
after.
a long time ago. And now we're getting away from that?
Ron, do you have any?
No, I think you're right on that, Rob. It was 2014.
So why are we walking that back now?
There's been no indication or incidents of breakdowns of the horses in the claiming. Could be a
They
variety
had
of
more
factors.
time, right? Wasn't
We're
that
the only
point
one
of
in the Northeast that has that time restriction, so I would suggest that's not accurate.
it? I mean, the rest of it seemed okay, but I wasn't quite clear why we're shortening that up, right?
I don't believe we have Scott Palmer on the phone today. Scott, are you on? I'd be happy to get his opinion relative to that.
Listen, if everyone wants it.
Let's put it over until.
We could do it, it's fine, but I mean,
If you have questions, John,
Yeah.
I'd rather put it
Okay.
over and get our medical director in
okay,
here,
good.
if
I
that's
meant to
okay
bring
with
it
the
up
other
earlier.
commissioners.
Yeah. It seemed like we undertook those steps for purposes of safety, and now we're sort of rolling it back.
I
Maybe
mean,
it makes sense.
honestly, I
but
think in the
I meant to
20
email you yesterday too, I
in the-
apologize.
No problem. In the 24 recommendations that came out of the 2011 task force report,
Right.
I wouldn't suggest that this was the primary recommendation.
No, we'll get our medical director to
Okay.
opine on this. Okay. Put it over the next meeting. Okay. Proposed amendments to the existing harness whipping rule. The last rulemaking matter for consideration today regards the harness whipping rule. At the last meeting, we had a brief discussion before tabling the action to ensure the participation of Commissioner Machete, who's always expressed concern regarding whipping and the use of crop rules. And frankly, I had some discussions as well. So I think it's worthwhile for us to discuss that. Mr. Williams.
For commission consideration are amendments to existing rules regarding the use of whips in harness racing. The proposed amendments would require that a driver keep a line in each hand, except as necessary to adjust equipment while racing or training, or at any time a horse is being driven on a track. The proposal would further define the allowable urging during a race and conduct that would be considered excessive and indiscriminate use of the whip. Kicking and foot out of stirrup would also be further refined for clarity, in that a driver who removes a foot from the stirrups would be treated as if the driver were found to have kicked a horse. And the conduct would be considered a kick violation if the driver makes contact with the horse while the feet are in or out of a stirrup. Finally, the proposal would establish penalties for these offenses, would allow for the consideration of offenses in other jurisdictions, and would constrain judges' discretion in setting such penalties. Commission rules currently provide that drivers may carry a whip of a certain length, which may be used in a conventional manner. Drivers are prohibited from kicking, and drivers must keep a line in each hand from the start of the race until 1/4 of 1 mile before the finish of the race. Adding the requirements that the lines must be kept in separate hands while racing, training, or at any other time when driving a horse on track premise, and that the use of the line must be restricted to the forearm and wrist action and not raised above the shoulder, will clearly provide what is permissible and will also bring New York in line with many other racing jurisdictions, as well as the United States Trotting Association model rules. Adding a set penalty structure for any violation of this rule would ensure that any successive offense within 1 year concerning whipping, kicking, or urging after an offense at any United States or Canadian racetrack would result in an increased penalty. Furthermore, the proposal would make clear that any indiscriminate use of the whip would subject the driver to license revocation. This structure would provide greater consideration of past offenses, establish uniformity among New York's tracks, and is intended as a further safeguard to ensure the health and safety of racehorses. As mentioned, there was a previous discussion of this rule at the last meeting with Chairman O'Dwyer requesting input from the affected industry. To that end, I communicated with Joseph Feraldo, the chair of the board of the United States Trotting Association and the president and chief executive officer of the Standardbred Owners Association of New York. Mr. Feraldo indicated that the Standardbred Owners Association of New York has no objection to the proposal of this rule. Staff recommends that the commission propose this rulemaking.
That's up for discussion now, commissioners, and I had some, but I'd like to hear from Commissioner Machete if I could.
About 4 or 5 years ago, we had some open forums that were put together with jockeys and trainers to discuss the use of the whip, or as they call it, the crop, during with respect to the thoroughbreds. And my position at that time was that there shouldn't be any use of the crop unless there was an emergency situation. That was a minority position, I think, at the time. And I had it for 2 reasons. One, because I think the excessive use of the crop, or the use of the crop, the way it was being done for thoroughbreds, was forcing horses to go beyond their will and run beyond their ability. And so I had great concerns about that. We were not unified as a commission, but we did impose strict rules about the use of the crop, which I think were very effective. With respect to the standardbred, I feel that there should be very strict rules against the use of the whip. It should be only used when there are situations where safety is at issue. But I know that's going to be difficult. I do like the proposals here as a fallback, and I think it should be very effective. But I think we should be cognizant. The perception, it's twofold with me. One, about forcing the horses to race beyond their ability. And the second is the perception that the use of a whip or a crop has on the public. I still constantly hear from people, both fans and non-fans, about the concern they have with the whipping of horses. And, I think where it's pretty clear, if you're talking to Scott Palmer and watching races and seeing what's going on, it's not that the crop or the whip hurts the horse, it's what it gets them to do on a course. So that's always a great concern. So if we're going to, do anything, I think we should restrict the use of the whip. And of course, kicking has no place. I think that the penalties for kicking should be severe, because there's no situation that would allow for that to happen. That is just, it's cheating for one and it's cruelty for another. So that's how I feel anyway.
Thank you, Commissioner. Actually, I have the same opinion in terms of the kicking of the horse. And I think I've asked the commission to, or the staff, to think of a penalty where, in my mind, first time 30 days, second time 90 days, third time revocation of license. The kicking, I agree with Commissioner Machete that while one can say that, the use of the whip, we could debate that, but it's been regular, and somebody could take it out of hand and make a mistake of using it. Kicking a horse means that you have to take the feet out of the stirrups and make and kick an animal. Is absolutely important to me. And my amendment would be, as I had indicated, first offense 30 days, second offense 90 days, third offense revocation of license.
Yeah, it's, you shouldn't tolerate a whole bunch of these behaviors, frankly. They talked about safety when they came in, right, Peter?
They
The
did,
jockeys?
and they did, and I did not think that was a very persuasive argument. Certainly there were many jockeys that grew up and were trained and became very successful with the use of the crop. But from my knowledge and what I thought, you know, it wasn't for safety purposes. It was to urge the horse forward, to race faster, to win.
I would, along with procedure, move to amend the regulation to indicate what I just did for kicking and removing the feet from the stirrups.
I would join in with that.
Yes.
So that would be specifically at 4117.8H1.
I'll hear, I have a motion and a second on the amendment. Do I hear all in favor of the amendment?
All right. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now to the main consideration of the rule. May I have a motion for the adoption of that?
Are we adopting the rule?
So to propose.
Proposal.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
sure. Well, Peter should do it.
So
Peter?
moved.
Yeah,
Second.
second committee.
Second.
Okay, that's consideration. Okay. Okay, any other business before the commission? No. Okay, before we get, I want to make my usual report to the commissioners about where I've been at. Make a few, as the executive director has indicated, I have been, we've met a number of times with our advertising agency, McCann, in regards to the lottery. And I have been really working with them and in terms of getting the message out about the fact that, and I think it's important for us as a commission and for our employees to know that what we're doing is providing a substantial amount of money to education in New York. I'm looking forward, you've heard from our executive director about the first two phases. The next phase is going to be what's going to go out on the media. And we're looking forward to receiving that soon. And I think by September, you'll see a very substantial campaign, media campaign, brand awareness of what, so that New Yorkers are entitled to know. As I said to people, I said, if you lose, at least your kid wins. And I think that's really an issue that we want to bring out. So I'm really looking forward to that. Secondly, the executive and I have met with and have gone out to the racetrack chaplaincy, who does fabulous work to the backstretch workers, both in Belmont and in Saratoga. And we were out at their new facility, which is quite lovely in Belmont. And what we have done together is we have established with the head of the chaplaincy a consultative process where every couple of months we'll be getting on the Zoom calls with him to really go over the issues that he sees and we see in terms of the well-being of the backstretch workers. And I think it's historic in the sense that the commission is really working hand in hand with them to make sure that the backstretch workers are treated fairly by all. We are also working on legislation and on work in regard to the aftercare of horses in after they can no longer race. There's new legislation that has come out really to make sure that the horses, after they have done their job as horses and raced their horse, that they're taken care. One, that they're taken care of well in their golden years away from racing, and two, that we now have anti-slaughter legislation that requires us, as not this commission necessarily, but Department of Agriculture and all involved in horse racing to make sure that those horses are not sent out of state for slaughter. I'm working specifically now. We've had meetings with the Department of Agriculture and the Thoroughbred Fund, and we are working on a way of policing this a lot better than we have in the past. And I'll be talking to you probably at our next meeting, hopefully, with where we are with that. But we're in the middle of that. I think everybody is taking that very seriously. I thank our executive director for his work on that because it's really very, very important. I'm very excited to report to the commission and to our constituents that we are now working on summer internships for college and maybe even high school students, working in a number of areas. We're a small agency, but we're unique in the sense that we have many, many different aspects. And we're talking about law, veterinary medicine, marketing, all of that, and more. And we would like very much, I'm relying on our Director of Communications and Community, Lee Park, to come up with a report to the commissioners. You will find because of the importance of this, the executive director has suggested that this be on the agenda for each ensuing meeting until we make sure that this is all set. So you'll hear a report from our executive director at each ensuing meeting as to what progress we're making in that regard. But I think this is really exciting for all of us to know that young people can get involved and learn about the various aspects that the commission has worked on. Finally, Commissioner Hamer and I were out at Belmont, and I was out at Belmont with our executive director the other day when we were visiting the racetrack chaplaincy. I'm happy to report that NYRA has is in the middle of working on putting up a new residence for the workers at Belmont, and we expect that will be fully functional by the winter meet. Additionally, I'm informed by our executive director, I haven't been up there, that the residence for our workers at Saratoga is similarly ready, or will be ready soon, for occupancy, and that will make a major difference in the lives of the workers on the backstretch. And I look forward to seeing many, if not all of you, at Saratoga for the Belmont. It promises to be a really exciting time for the industry and for upstate. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Let's go back to the horse lives,
Yeah.
There's been some comments in the paper by different owners stating that, if you can't pay a small fee to make sure that your horses that run here are treated well, I think it was Rapoli who said it. So I don't know if that's a movement amongst ownership of the horses, but I don't know if we've talked to them, but we should. It's kind of shameful that, we spend all this money on making sure horses get bred in this state and running them here with the purses, and they mysteriously end up, on their way to Mexico on a one-way trip,
Yeah, that's really something that we're really looking forward.
We should be able to chart all the New York breds at a minimum, right?
Yeah, and we're going to be doing that. That's
That'd be great.
exactly what we're going to be covering, without going too far into it because we're not there yet. But
Yeah.
we will be covering every single horse auction in New York,
Right.
with an employee of one of the entities.
But it's also where they end up, right? Their creation
Well, I think
exists as a function of the state, right?
yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, we do have regulations, I'm told by our executive director, that you are licensed as a trainer and you are required not to do that.
and they don't, but the story you know, is a third party and then a fourth party, and everyone sort of feigns ignorance to
And
what
that's-
happened. But a
and-
horse is a hard thing to miss,
Yeah,
right?
and that's why the important thing is to catch it at the auctions.
Right.
That's not gonna be 100%.
Yeah.
There's gonna be, private sales, and it's gonna be hard to.
I mean, the breeders should be able to chart them at some level where they ended up, like last sale, right? I mean, if they,
Yeah, but that's, to that extent, we're doing that. And also, John, we're also looking, there's substantial, thank God in New York, not yet, but there's been substantial work of people who are buying horses at auction, finding the original first owner, and then calling them and say, I'm about to send it for slaughter unless you send me a major check. And that needs to be stopped, and we're working with the Assembly to propose legislation in that regard as well.
that'd be great. Good luck.
Motion to adjourn? So moved.
Second.
Second. Well, thank you.